Perhaps the problem wasn't the knowledge itself, but the way that it was acquired. God wanted to teach the couple gradually as children are taught in school, but they learned evil through experience. Yeah, that would help. Because this floaty is definitely going to give me problems today. Thank you. Okay. So, we're not quite next to that next one there. It is better. Thank you, Devin. So think about the kinds of knowledge, even now, that many of us would be better off not knowing. How does this help us understand what was forbidden in the Garden of Eden? Are any of you avid news watchers? Yes. So I have Newsbreak on my phone app. I do not read everything that pops up. Sometimes just the title itself is more than I want to know, especially when it involves young children. There was a movie, I won't even say the movie's name, that came out years ago. I had seen the trailers. I told my friends, I don't want to watch this. I do not. This is nothing I want to put in my brain. And the weather had forced my children and I to stay at our friend's house, and we were doing different things, and then there was this movie on, and there was a couple of scenes that caught my attention. So I sat down to watch, and then the commercial came on, and when it came back, it told the name of the movie, the very movie I did not want to watch.
Did you get a chance to watch my sermon on the
I pray every day when some of those scenes pop back up. I'm so sorry, God. Please erase those images. That was when your wife was There's lots of knowledge. And now with AI, there's lots of false knowledge. You don't know. You don't know what's true. I was looking at my email, and it's like, too many letters in that thing. That definitely has to be a scam. I've got a couple ones I've got to make calls on to see if they're scams or not. But I'm not giving them any information to triple check it. Okay? So the very first commandment, was that commandment to limit Adam and Eve from anything good? No. They had so many other trees to choose from.
Thousands of trees in that garden.
Flowers, animals. There's a story in the Teacher's Edition that a father took his son to watch a movie about animals because his son was so bored. And they got to the theater and they watched, but it was not the side that showed God's creation, the positive side. It showed the vulture catching the bird and the lions tearing apart their prey. At one point, the boy was crying, "Take me home, get me out of here, I don't want to see this." It wasn't what the Father had intended to show. Because this is what happened in the Garden of Eden.
That's what we need, John.
So then, Israel, we learned this last week, decided they wanted knowledge too.
Let's read this.
We want a king, like all the other nations. How many are parents in here? Or teachers? Parents or teachers? I'm sure you've never heard this statement. But my friends are doing it. Or everybody else is doing it. Sometimes if I hear it too much, I don't have a poker face, and so I'm pretty sure they see my message before I can work out the appropriate words to let them know that's not going to work. Okay? But Israel wanted a king. Last week in the Sabbath school class I was in, my thought was, have you ever gotten discouraged and you're praying to God and you can't touch him and you can't see him? And it was like, if I just had someone that I could put my head on his shoulder, or he could hug me, or I could do some active listening where we can see he's listening and all that. This is where I think Israelites were coming from. They had plenty of evidence that God was taking care of them. Even sometimes the way they wanted, which caused them to get sick. I'm thinking about the quails. Okay, you want meat? I'll give you meat. Then they engorged themselves and got sick, right? Some died. But this mistake of seeking knowledge, not given by God, is when they asked for a king. And eventually, they became subjected to other nations so they would know what it means to serve Him, God, and what it means to serve the nations. So as we look through history in the Bible, was any of that pleasant? When they served, I don't know, Babylon, Persia, any of that? No. But again, freedom of choice. One thing, I don't know if it was brought out here, and I didn't get a chance to say it last week, but when they asked for a king, Samuel took it personally. Samuel took it that they were rejecting Samuel. And God had reminded him, they're not rejecting you, Samuel. They're rejecting me, the Creator. And so, if we can all just be wise enough sometimes to stop and think before we speak or make a choice, then we can hear, who are you choosing? Are you choosing me, God, or are you choosing self? So here we have in Daniel 2, and this is where we have the image, right? How many of you know the image? That's a better way to ask it. Okay? How many kingdoms are represented? How many? 4. Okay? And then you have a multitude of small ones. So earlier it said about the countries, and if we look at these, Babylon was the greatest nation, right? Medes and Persians, a little bit less. Greece, a little bit less. Rome, a little bit less. That's nations. Nations decrease in their greatness. But let's look at the metals. Which is the best metal? Gold. Which is not the best metal. And let's not talk about the feet just yet. The iron. Yeah. And then, of course, when you mix iron and clay, and our yard at school is clay. There were wet spots yesterday that I didn't know got that wet. But, so there's this. Then I did not bring my phone up here. I went to the great controversy, so hang on. I must have left it upstairs. Michael, is my phone up there? It's purple. Okay. Well, I'll try and do it from memory then. I'll find it before I go home. As I was reading the lesson and studying, and anytime you guys have comments, please interject, because I'm sure you have some insights that you received that maybe I didn't receive. So we're learning together. But as I was reviewing the lesson, I thought of France. If you go to Great Controversy and put this in your quarterlies, it's page 269, 270, somewhere in there. And it might even go to 271. You'll have a chapter, 2 or 3 chapters before that says the Reformation of France, but this is not that chapter. This is the following chapter about the French Revolution. Let's see if that other comment is in here. Oh, he found it. Thank you. My students, I would tell them, please watch. This is my phone, what it looks like. If you see it, just bring it back up to me. Okay, so we'll find the other comment as we're going along. France is the only nation in the world concerning which the authentic record survives, that as a nation she lifted her hand in open rebellion against the author of the universe. Plenty of blasphemers, plenty of infidels there have been and still continue to be in England, Germany, Spain, and elsewhere. But France stands apart in the world's history as the single state which by the decree of her legislative assembly pronounced there was no God, and of which the entire population of the capital and a vast majority elsewhere, women as well as men, danced and sang with joy in accepting this announcement. A total turnaround. Total turnaround. Well, I'm looking for my next comment here. Is there anyone that wants to add to this? Here's where I got it from. Yes. Yep. Yep, I am on Mondays. Daniel 2. Did you have, okay, so.
I could appreciate the comment in Monday's study where the second, third paragraph, where it talks about World War I, however, quickly shattered the dreams, and by the end of the 20th century, we had lost more than 200 million people to warfare, and we may have advanced in technological sense, but certainly not in a moral one.
Right.
And to paraphrase Martin Luther King Jr., we have guided missiles, but misguided men. And it's so unfortunate to think this is, where
Yes.
we are.
Yes. Thank you, Pat, because it's really part of where it starts here. Probably with the Paris Exposition made me think of the chapter in Great Controversy. But this was in 1900. It was a remarkable showcase of optimism about the future. Surely, with all of our technological and scientific advances, many of humanity's worst problems would be at an end. As humanity entered the 20th century, among many thinkers, there was this great optimism that Enlightenment ideals, such as human perfectibility, the power of reason, would usher in a wonderful new era for humanity. Boy, wonder what they thought as time went on. In Ellen G. White's writings, and the first one is from Prophets and Kings, and then it repeats itself in Youth Instructor from September 22, 1903. I'm not going to read all of it. In the history of nations, the student of God's word may behold the literal fulfillment of divine prophecy. Babylon, shattered and broken at last, passed away, because in prosperity, its rulers had regarded themselves as independent of God, and had ascribed the glory of their kingdom to human achievement. The Medo-Persian realm was visited by the wrath of heaven because in it God's law had been trampled underfoot. The fear of the Lord had found no place in the hearts of the vast majority of the people. Wickedness, blasphemy, corruption prevailed. The kingdoms that followed were even more base and corrupt, and these sank lower and still lower in the scale of moral worth. So as we look at the statue, it says so much more than what we have initially learned. We know the kingdoms. And this was told, Daniel was in Babylon, and yet Daniel was given the vision of the rest of the time on earth, because the clay and the iron mixed is where we are. And that rock coming through is so close. Yep. Maybe toenails, edge of the toenails. Haven't been clipped in a while. Okay. So we have all of this imagery, but when we move to Daniel 7, we have different imagery, but same meanings, correct? Yeah. All of these beasts, and what they stand for the same nations, correct? Okay. So would someone please read Daniel 7, 1 through 3? Daniel 7, 1 through 3. Okay, we have Lois. Don't be shy. Oh, Someone behind you got there first.
Daniel 7, 1 to 3. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and vision of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came upon from the sea, diverse one another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth,
Cordell?
and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's art was given to it.
Okay. Was that still in verse 3? I must have stopped before I got done, which is totally possible. But that's okay. That's okay. So there's a lot of action happening in those verses. So what's the first action? We just had some of it this past week. What action? Four winds stirring, right? This morning I realized my skirt was a little bit more flared. Wasn't sure what the wind was like outside, so I put a pair of shorts on because that wind trips me up quite often. Okay? So the first action we have is, I skipped some things, didn't I? So we talked about the progressive devaluation of metals, announced a progressive decline of humanity. The Industrial Revolution, along with theories of men like Darwin and Marx, have led us to believe that humanity can improve until it achieves a perfect society without God. Pretty sure the Tower of Babel showed us that. Okay? And there we can see the prophecy already warned us, and current events prove it. Humanity is rapidly degenerating, especially morally. If it was right up to this point, we can trust that what is yet to come will be fulfilled. Okay, and then we have the four beasts. So why repeat the succession? You got two dreams covering the same material, right? Well, first, to make clear the certainty of its fulfillment. Second, to show the relationship of God's people to the history of the nations. For this vision was given to a Hebrew prophet, not a pagan king like the first vision, right? These nations would not arise peacefully, but as a result of wars. If you look there, the picture there goes with what the text said. Four winds stirring up the great sea. Are any of you sailors? Do you like boating on Lake Michigan? How many of you have crossed Lake Michigan on the ferry? I have. Well, when they first started, there were some specials, so I took some grandchildren. The first one was really kind of peaceful and nice. The second one, the waters were not so peaceful and calm, and the children and I did well, but others did not from the odors that I was smelling, and praying that my grandchildren would not do the same. But stirring up the waters there. And then you have these four beasts. That's not peaceful. Those beasts don't look peaceful. And they came up out of the sea. Okay? Israel is not involved in the conflict. It's merely a victim, a territory that would pass from empire to empire without autonomy. Sometimes we know what words are, but to explain to someone, we're not sure, right? So I looked up autonomous. So Israel no longer ruled itself. Never, ever again. Okay? How far from the ideal that God had thought for them? You know, Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you. They are of good, not evil. And yet we look around ourselves, maybe even things that are happening in our families or our neighborhoods. God did not plan that evil. Yeah, this is the paragraph that I took out of, that I was reading from. So this is from Prophets and Kings, page 501 and 502, if you want to just mark it in your quarterly. Okay, and we'll stop there for a moment. Starting with the Babylonian domination, God's covenant people never again enjoyed complete or long-lasting autonomy. The loss of autonomy for God's people today will persist until the close of time, when Christ is finally restored to his rightful place as our king. Though historically some nations have been better than others, I'm getting this out of our quarterly, and some eras have been more peaceful than others, the vast majority of the history of nations, peoples, and empires has simply been going from one tragedy to another. Do you agree? From one oppressor to another. And often this is all done under rulers claiming only the best intentions for their own people. What a contrast to the rule that God had wanted for his people, if only they would have chosen it. Can I have someone else read Romans 3:10 through 19? Romans 3:10 through 19. We only have about 15, maybe 20 minutes if he's not paying attention. Okay, Romans 3:10 through 19.
As it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. There is none who understands. There is none who seeks after God. They have all turned aside. They have together become unprofitable. There is none who does good, no, not one. Their throat is an open tomb. With their tongues they have practiced deceit. The poison of asps is under their lips, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the way of peace they have not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Now we know that whatever the law says, it says to those who are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world may become guilty before God.
Is it not true? From the statue to today, until today. There were things this week that I learned about students, about other places and people. Breaks my heart. Breaks my heart. But Jesus is coming soon, where there will be no more tears and no more sorrow. Okay? These verses in Romans, how do these verses especially show why we so desperately need the gospel in our lives? I got a call from my sister yesterday, and she's very discouraged. And we had limited time to talk, and it was like, sister, first of all, I'm going to tell you, you're not the only one feeling that way this week. I'm struggling. I've talked to others who are struggling. Satan is attacking us. Physically, mentally, spiritually, he's attacking us. I said, hang on, hold on. And then I read a devotion that said, we must sing. Music is a balm to our soul and a connector to God if we choose the right music. So I was intentionally, in fact, yesterday morning, I was starting to sing just because I was feeling so overwhelmed, but then I read this and I thought, let me sing more. Let me sing more. But yes, we have to hang on to Jesus. Okay, the earth and the sea. Who can tell me what the sea stands for in Bible prophecy? Usually, what does the sea stand for? People, nations, right? And what does the earth stand for? That was a little bit trickier. So symbolically, on Wednesday, okay, symbolically, when earth and sea are juxtaposed, earth often represents the ordered world, or even the land of Israel, while sea refers to the Gentile nations that menace it as the sea menaces the land. Okay? And that's from, it's a long thing there. The book is Symposium on Revelation, and I think it was Beatrice S. Neal that did that part. So in this thinking, land is a place of stability established on the government of God, while sea represents the unstable turmoil of nations established on human pride. And as we looked at that statue, that was definitely established on human pride, and it was definitely turbulent. I mean, Greece, Alexander the Great was really doing great, but then there was turbulence in his government, right? So, earth and sea. The idea expressed above is the background with the idea. Let's read Revelation 12, 15, and 16. So someone quickly get Revelation 12, 15, and 16. And someone else Revelation 13, verses 1, and then skip to verse 11. Okay, Revelation 12. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Michelle, I might call on you. David, do you have it? Okay, David has Revelation 12, verse 15. You have 13? I need 12 read first. I need 12 read first. Okay.
Revelation
12,
Revelation
verses 15 and 16.
15 and 16. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth, and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth.
Okay? The other slide presentation I looked at had a beautiful picture of the dragon spewing out water, but this one had but information I was looking for.
31 and 11. Then I stood on the sand of the sea. I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 ears and 10 horns. On his horns 10 crowns, and on his head a blasphemous name. 11. Then I saw another beast coming out of the earth, and it had 2 horns like a lamb, and spoke like a dragon.
Okay. So here we notice that the dragon uses water to persecute the woman. And in this occasion, the author says the church. As we have seen in prophecy, water often symbolizes worldly governments and the turmoil and chaos that often attends them. Hence, we can see how Satan was able to use the masses provided by their leaders to persecute God's people through much of church history. No way. I got 10 minutes. Don't shorten it today. Okay, so, yeah, he rang that bell. Now I lost my train of thought. If you think back to history, in the Dark Ages, the church is persecuting the believers, right? And we're somewhere else here, and now he's going to make me shorten it. It says that if God had not intervened, there would not have been one believer left alive. God had to intervene. We already know that God has won the war, correct? We have our day-to-day battles. And the only way we're going to win those are with God. Okay, so let's think about earth. If you have questions, look at your lesson or come to me and I'll show you where I'm getting this from to the best of my ability. But if we think about the pilgrims, there was persecution in Europe, correct? They did not want to, the Puritans did not want to follow the Church of England, which was just an offshoot of the Catholic Church, correct? So they were persecuted. They left to other countries, but they didn't want to leave behind their heritage. And then pretty soon they saw their children absorbing the other countries. And at this time, America was new. It was a place of shelter. And so they come. The earth, on the other hand, is depopulated. It's a territory where the faithful church is taken when unconverted multitudes seek to destroy it. A land of freedom. Can we not see that? It is the United States. And so then there's a lamb-like beast, right? Because we didn't even pass, 20 years. And I'm going to get my names mixed up. But Rhode Island, history buffs, help me out here. Rhode Island became a place where there was controversy again over how you believe. They just escaped or left countries that said you can't believe this way, you have to believe this way, and then they turned around and did it in a very short time here in America, right? So a lamb-like beast. But then what does it say next in that verse after the lamb-like beast? David, do you remember that part? There was a lamb-like beast, and then there was one, so 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon, but then it becomes another beast, and it's the dragon. The first beast is lamb-like, but unfortunately he will speak like a dragon. I'm probably mixing up a couple things. The United States, so long a beacon of religious freedom for the persecuted, will become the dominant religious persecutor. Another example of what happened when humanity chose to rule itself instead of being ruled by God. Okay? Revelation 10, 1 through 11. Can someone just summarize it? Revelation 10, 1 through 11. If not, quickly read it. Okay, Revelation 10, 1 through 11. If not, I'll get it. So who can beat me? Okay, Karen's got it right here. We're using microphones now, Karen, so hang on for a minute.
I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was on his head. His face was like the sun, and his feet like pillars of fire. He had a little book open in his hand. Am I in the right place?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And he set his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land, and cried with a loud voice as when a lion roars. When he cried out, 7 thunders uttered their voices. Now when the 7 thunders uttered their voices, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying to me, seal up the things which the 7 thunders uttered, and do not write them. The angel whom I saw standing on the sea and on the land raised up his hand to heaven and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that are in it, the earth and the things that are in it, the sea and the things that are in it, that there should be delay no longer. But in the days of the sounding of the 7th angel, when he is about to sound, the mystery of God would be finished, as he declared to his servants the prophets.
Yes. So the angel holds a little book, most likely the book of Daniel, which is open for the first time in many generations. He has 1 foot on the sea and another on the earth. Might be reference to the idea that the message covers the globe, both the old world and the new world. Might also be a reference to the idea that this message is for all nations, those who live on the land and those who live in the Gentile sea. The world at long last will be lighted up with the glory of God, and the final messages of Revelation 14 are carried to everyone. We have the 2 prophecies, right? This needs to go faster. Okay, I'll just pause there. Going into Friday, Great Controversy, page 674. One reminder alone remains. Our Redeemer will ever bear the marks of his crucifixion, forever and ever. Upon his wounded head, upon his side, his hands and feet, are the only traces of the cruel work that sin has wrought. Says the prophet, beholding Christ in his glory, he had bright beams coming out of his side, and there was the hiding of his power. That pierced side which flowed the crimson stream that reconciled men to God, there is the Savior's glory, there the hiding of his power, mighty to save through the sacrifice of redemption. He was therefore strong to execute justice upon them that despised God's mercy, and the tokens of his humiliation are his highest honor. Through the eternal ages, the wounds of Calvary will show forth his praise and declare his power. Why is it always important to keep the perspective that no matter how grand, no matter how great, no matter how awe-inspiring and glorious, all of our earthly stuff will be turned to dust, ashes, and ultimately vanquished forever. How can that help us keep our priorities straight? How? I think our lesson, our quarter this week is helping us to understand prophecy, reminding us of things. Please turn to this. Please be still and know that He is God. Whatever. Let's bow our heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you for, while they might be hidden in symbols and whatever, you have given us the interpretation. We must keep you first in our life and foremost in our mind. And that's so hard with the day-to-day stuff. I pray this prayer for all of us, me included, to please create in us a clean heart and renew within us a right spirit. Help us to be still and know you, and then share you with whoever we come into contact with. Continue to pour out your blessings and open our hearts, minds, and ears to your word today as we continue into our church service. Thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen. I believe we have about a 5-minute break.